Don't be shy. You're just a high school dropout who's going to teach me German, right? Derek mockingly tossed the documents my way. Got it. Despite feeling resentful, I obediently started to go through the documents. But immediately, I was taken aback by the unbelievable content I read. We absolutely cannot agree to this contract. It could jeopardize our company's existence. Huh? I hastily translated and skimmed the contract, summarizing its details. Derek, my would-be boss, and other executives present were visibly shocked. My name is John. I started working at this company nearly 20 years ago, beginning as a part-time apprentice. After spending a decade at an overseas branch, I was recently called back to the head office. Feeling nostalgic, I entered the bustling New York headquarters. My father, known for his whimsical and carefree nature, disappeared as soon as he learned of my mother's pregnancy. Raised in a single-parent home, I witnessed my mother's tremendous struggles. She worked at cafe and supermarket during the day and tirelessly did piecework late into the night. When I was in my third year of middle school, my mom encouraged me to go to high school. But I knew my mom was working day and night, so I wanted to help her financially rather than going to high school. Understanding her health was failing due to overwork, I felt no hesitation in starting work right after middle school. I took up a part-time job at a factory producing computer components. It offered enough work to keep me busy, and they also provided meals and a transportation allowance. For me, it was the perfect job. Perhaps because a kid suddenly joined them, everyone at the factory took great care of me. They taught me skills to improve quality, efficient work methods, and even the best way to wash work clothes. Some even gave me vegetables to take home to my mother. I was well liked by everyone, and thanks to their detailed guidance, I enjoyed my work. President Thompson must have noticed my rapid development and offered me a full-time position, a stroke of great fortune. When I received a bonus for my well-received parts, I joyfully bought a gift for my mother. However, 4 years later, my mother, who had always been frail, passed away, leaving me alone. During my period of grief and low spirits, President Thompson approached me with an opportunity. How about working overseas? We'll support you with your German. Seeing me struggle in my hometown, he offered me this chance. The company had established an overseas branch that wasn't performing well. Feeling lost without my mother, I accepted the offer to work abroad. Adapting to work in a foreign country was genuinely challenging. Not only the language barrier, but also the cultural differences created many confusions. Initially, there were issues like not gathering on time and subpar work quality. I often clashed with the local workers. However, by exchanging opinions, we gradually began to understand each other. When I shared my background, some even wept for the mother they never met. I was invited to family feasts and even received support from local influencers. In this way, I gradually built up a track record at the branch office. After a decade, I became proficient in German and took on external negotiations. Then, I received orders to return home. For 10 years, I worked tirelessly, trying to forget about my mother. Standing in front of the headquarters after a decade, I was astonished. While I was working hard overseas, the headquarters had constructed a new building, quite an impressive structure. It was a glass-clad skyscraper, with security guards stationed around the clock. Welcome back, you've done well overseas. We've arranged a temporary position for you, so please do your best there. President Thompson greeted me with a warm smile. My position at the company was still up in the air. It seemed they were unsure about where to best utilize me. After the greetings, President Thompson quickly escorted me to the sales department. At first glance, the sales team appeared youthful and full of energy. I'm John, and I'll be working with you from today. "Nice to meet you," I introduced myself. Everyone responded to my greeting with smiles. I thought I'd be able to adjust smoothly at the headquarters. However, my optimistic outlook was soon shattered by a man. The next day, I greeted my new boss, the department manager named Derek. "Good morning." There was no reply to my greeting. Even though he had been friendly during my introduction the day before, he looked displeased. "Good morning," I said again, thinking he might not have heard me. "Quiet, I heard you." I was suddenly confronted with harsh, offensive language. As I stood there in shock, a mocking voice followed, further belittling me. "You're a high school dropout, and you're older than me." "Yes. You went overseas or something, but I guess it was just because you're too dumb and got demoted, right?" I had been looked down upon for being a dropout before, but I didn't expect it here. As I stood speechless, Derek continued, "Guarding a useless dropout like you is just my bad luck," he said condescendingly, looking me over and then returning to his desk. During lunch, I learned from my colleagues that Derek was considered an elite due to his high educational background. He would flatter those he deemed superior and look down on those he saw as beneath him. He was not well liked because he flaunted his status. But he has a good facade, so complaining about him will only lead to resentment. It seems like the people at work have somewhat resigned themselves to the situation. Apparently, Derek started out humble but became arrogant once he had subordinates. I tried to begin my actual work to assess Derek, but he didn't explain anything to me. "You can handle this work as a high school dropout. Just do some menial tasks." Saying so, they wouldn't even let me properly handle the documents. "No, I was assigned here by President Thompson, so please let me see the contracts or something," I insisted. "Like I said, there's no job for a useless high school dropout here." "Oh wait," he said smugly. Derek called a nearby part-time cleaning staff member and told me, from now on, clean with her. What? Both the part-time worker and I were shocked. "Document work is too good for an incompetent dropout," he scoffed. Stunned, I exchanged glances with the part-time staff. Derek placed a broom and cloth in front of me, smirking. "Hurry up, or does a dropout not even know how to clean?" Frustration welled up inside me, but I didn't want to cause trouble so soon after returning. Additionally, my colleagues around me kept glancing over. They were probably afraid of becoming the next target of Derek's wrath. Holding back my emotions, I picked up the broom and rag and began cleaning methodically. "Okay, it seems we are done today," the part-time staff member said, offering me coffee in the break room. "Thank you, that Derek. He's really a terrible person," I said. She shared that she too was looked down upon just for being in the cleaning staff. Her name was Emily Thompson. Being close in age and sharing the common plight of being burdened with Derek's unreasonable demands, we bonded and became close. She taught me some cleaning tips, and in return, I shared with her some sewing tricks I had learned from helping my mother with her home-based work. Meanwhile, Derek's arrogant behavior only worsened. He relegated me to menial tasks like making tea and photocopying, typical of a new employee's chores. Even when I asked to see documents, he'd refuse to show them, and only after repeated requests, he'd reluctantly toss them my way. My colleagues would give me sympathetic looks but seemed afraid of becoming the target of his anger. I understood their feelings, so I didn't hold any grudges against them. They would later apologize and sneakily show me the documents, making it easier for me to work without drawing Derek's attention. One day, I spotted a troubling company on the list of potential contract candidates. It was an overseas company known for non-payment and failing to deliver goods. I remembered listing it as a risky business while I was at the branch office. If we can secure a contract with any of these, it could significantly grow our company, and my achievement will be huge, Derek excitedly said. Indeed, if we could implement the management AI system developed by this company, we wouldn't need to keep paying a fortune to the outsourced management firm. Driven by a desire for success, Derek was visibly excited. But I had a bad feeling about that company. Despite my issues with Derek, I couldn't let the company engage in something dangerous. I think it's better to research that company a bit more. There are some questionable businesses overseas, and it's better to be cautious. I suggested, handing him a manual with the cautionary criteria we used at the branch. However, he knocked the document from my hand, scattering it across the floor. "What are you doing?" I exclaimed. "Ha, as if a document written by a high school dropout could be worth anything. Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong," he scoffed. It was clear talking to him was futile. I wondered if people like Derek were common in this company. I was in the cafeteria, sighing heavily. Then Emily came over. By that time, we had become confidants and complaining. "Did Derek give you a hard time again?" "It's not your fault," she said. "Yeah, he didn't even glance at the manual I made, just knocked it over," I replied. "That's terrible. What was the manual about?" she asked. The manual contained confidential company information. So I couldn't just tell Emily, an external contractor. When I explained this, I expected her to be disappointed, but instead, she smiled warmly. "You're really honest, John. With your diligence, you'll definitely see brighter days," she reassured me. Her smile lifted my spirits. I was encouraged by Emily's gesture of giving me homemade cookies as a reward for my hard work. I mustered the courage to go and consult with Derek. I was curious about his negotiation and contract styles and asked to accompany him, even if only as an errand boy. "You want to shine my shoes?" he mocked. "Yes, I'll do it," I agreed. "Fine, but remember, someone like you shouldn't even be part of this," he said disdainfully. It was humiliating, but I got the chance to participate in the negotiation. The other party was scheduled to come to our office for a meeting at 2 p.m., as Derek had mentioned. With this faint hope, I opened the door to the meeting room in the afternoon. But when I arrived, the place was completely deserted. Rushing to the office, I learned that the meeting had already ended in the morning. Returning to my desk, I saw Derek smirking. "Hey, I told you the meeting was at 11 a.m., didn't I? What's this mess now?" he accused. "What do you mean? Wasn't it supposed to be at 2 p.m.? I asked, confused. "I clearly said 11 a.m. It's really troublesome how a high school dropout can't even keep track of time," he taunted. Suddenly, I realized I had been set up by Derek. "Derek, what kind of person are you? Do you have a problem with me? It's not your place to speak up, you low achiever." This is how I lost my chance to be a part of the contract meetings. Feeling down, I secretly opened the cookies Emily had given me. Then something unbelievable happened. "Hey, don't you dare think you can take a break, you incompetent." Derek snatched the cookies from me and crushed them under his shoe, turning them into dust. "How could you do that? Those were Emily's cookies. Ha, that cleaning lady, perfect match for a bottom dweller like you. Was I destined to be treated this way just because I didn't finish high school? I could tolerate it for myself, but I couldn't stand Emily being insulted too. Enough is enough. I've got my own thoughts on this matter." Derek seemed taken aback for a moment at my assertive tone, but quickly turned furious. "What? You're defying me. You keep calling me incompetent, but what do you really know about me? You never even tried to see my abilities. Just looking down on me must be so easy for you." This seemed to hit a nerve, as Derek slammed a thick document in front of me. "Then you can read this, right? Teach me some German, Mr. Middle School Dropout." "Understood." I picked up the document and started reading. It appeared to be a contract used in today's transaction. This will be a huge advancement for me if it gets finalized. Ignoring the boasting Derek in the background, I continued reading the contract and discovered something alarming. This could ruin the company. Stunned, I looked up to find Derek snatching the contract from me. Of course, a middle school dropout can understand German, right? Start from the alphabet again. His usual demeaning tone didn't matter to me now. What are you talking about? If we agree to this contract, our company is in danger, I yelled at Derek, forgetting all formalities. And I rushed to the president's office. President Thompson was shocked by my sudden entrance but turned pale as he read the contract and listened to my explanation. He immediately summoned Derek. President Thompson, I apologize. This idiot just barged in causing trouble. What on earth is this all about? President Thompson gathered other executives, and in the midst of them, I raised some concerning points. Is this the contract from today's deal? Yes. Derek's voice was drowned out by President Thompson's shout. Are you trying to bankrupt this company? Derek, look here. There's no delivery date specified. The contract shockingly had no delivery date mentioned and stipulated that we would pay before starting the work. I translated the contract briefly while reading. The executives, including President Thompson, turned ghostly pale. We have a payment deadline mentioned, but there's no deadline for when the other party will deliver. That's the problem. Well, they said they were short on funds to build the system, so once we transfer the money, they'll deliver it soon enough. Derek tried to deny my claims, but he was flustered. He probably realized something was off but didn't want to agree with me. Derek, growing desperate, tried to argue, but I calmly continued. No, there's a real possibility that they could just take our money and disappear. What are you saying? I've seen the company's system with my own eyes. What if that was just a sample to gain our trust? However, Derek turned red-faced with anger and snapped at me, but every time he did, his words got tangled up. The contract was lacking in credibility, almost like a mere verbal agreement. If any trouble arose, it would just lead to a futile argument of he said, she said. But more troubling was a particular clause written in it. The cost of updates for any deficiencies will be borne by us as needed, it read. In small, hard-to-read German print. There was no mention of an upper limit to the amount, and agreeing to such terms could potentially lead to enormous financial demands. This shows you haven't read the contract properly. A little attention would have made these issues immediately apparent. No, there's no way such a major company would deceive us. The contractor, a major player, have been receiving bad press lately, especially in the overseas locations where I have been posted. Unlike in America, where trust is paramount, dealing with overseas companies often means our laws don't apply. As I conveyed these concerns, Derek's face turned red, then pale, in quick succession. I just accepted the contract they offered. There was no problem when we talked. But the actual document says otherwise, doesn't it? Once a contract is stamped, it's difficult to overturn. Even taking legal action against an overseas company might not get us anywhere. That's why, in our branches, we don't do lump sum payments up front but rather employ milestone-based or split payment methods as a precaution. Contracts are crucial. The other party is counting on us falling into their trap. Derek, obviously upset at being constantly challenged by me, was biting his lip and trembling, but I didn't have time for him. President Thompson, let's talk with the company. Since we haven't officially contracted yet, there should be a way to handle this. Yes, please do. I'm sorry to have you clean up this mess. I, along with Derek and other executives, contacted the counterpart. Thinking the contract was a done deal, they arrived excitedly. However, upon seeing not only Derek but other staff lined up, they looked confused. The negotiations with the executives were tough, as the other party kept dodging responsibility. In the midst of the heated German discussions, Derek merely shrank back. Anyway, we can't agree to these terms. At the very least, we need to change the payment terms. But Derek agreed to it. He didn't read the contract. That's our fault, but these terms are unacceptable. The other party was probably holding out, thinking they were about to receive a massive sum. After some grumbling, they finally agreed to annul the contract. We've heard various rumors about your company. If it were to cost us millions, we'd have to reconsider. My firm stance seemed to work. In the end, they left the company with words of disdain for the Americans. I was relieved. It was a situation that could have been irreversible. Dealing with overseas companies is tricky because they can escape anywhere. Back at the office, President Thompson thanked me and reprimanded Derek. It's the other party's fault for being malicious. Any other employee would have done the same. Why am I the only one being blamed? Derek rambled excuses, but President Thompson, who disliked such talk, scolded him further. Regardless of the reason, the responsibility lay with Derek. He had endangered the company by not checking the contract. Well, if you can't even read a contract properly, I can't trust you with important tasks. President Thompson effectively sidelined Derek, who was fuming. Why, I've contributed to this company. It's his fault for interfering. Both I and President Thompson were at a loss for words at his absurd reasoning. Do you even understand why I hired John in the first place? I heard he worked overseas, but he's a high school dropout, right? I gave work to such a person, so I don't deserve to be disrupted by him. Then, President Thompson began to scold Derek. Derek, enough already. John is a talented individual who turned our overseas branch around in 10 years. Are you judging him based on his educational background? That's a lie, just to get him into the company. How could a high school dropout be competent? Despite being reprimanded so severely, Derek still couldn't admit his faults. I opened my mouth, feeling exasperated. I may be a high school dropout, but I have extensive experience dealing with foreign companies due to my 10 years at the overseas branch. I was asked to accompany you this time, as we're considering deals with foreign companies at the headquarters too. Derek, looking at me as if seeing something unbelievable, trembled and stuttered in denial. A company that employs a dropout like this is the problem. Dropouts should just grovel at the bottom. Derek himself seemed to have lost track of what he was saying. His styled hair disheveled as he ranted incoherently. Clearly, he was extremely bothered by my achievements in the company. Even if he had understood from the beginning, the outcome would likely have been the same. I approached Derek calmly and spoke evenly. Derek, do you realize how much trouble you've caused the company with this incident? At my words, Derek flinched, but then he snapped back, his brows furrowed in anger. Shut up. You're nothing but an incompetent fool. Enough. You're the one who almost caused damage to this company. As I raised my voice, Derek bit his lip. President Thompson strode over and addressed Derek directly. True, you have a high education, but that doesn't give you the right to act superior here. Be aware of your unacceptable behavior as a professional. But it's the same for him. He's not behaving according to professional manners either, Derek retorted, trying to shift the blame to me for being late to the meeting. I can't believe I'm considered inferior to someone who can't even keep time. Then show us the email correspondence with the other party. The real issue was that Derek had lied to me about the meeting time, leading to my absence. The time I had been told was 1400 hours, but the actual time was 11 o'clock. If we could see the email dialogues with the other party, it would be immediately clear. Reluctantly, Derek showed the emails after President Thompson's stern command, and sure enough. Indeed, the emails exchanged between Derek and the client showed the meeting time was set for 11 o'clock. This confirmed that Derek had lied to me. It's not true. I did tell John 11 o'clock, but he didn't show up. Derek's desperate excuses fell on deaf ears. I was speechless at his absurdity. It's not just that. Derek hasn't been giving John any work, rather making him do cleaning and tea serving whenever possible. Then, as if to add insult to injury, another person entered the scene. It was Emily, the cleaning lady. Emily, what are you doing here? What? A mere cleaner trying to meddle. Though she was a cleaner, Emily was dressed in a crisp suit, unlike her usual work attire. Thank you for your hard work, Emily. It's fine, Dad. To everyone's surprise, Emily was President Thompson's daughter. It never occurred to anyone that they were related, given the commonality of their last name. President Thompson had a policy of not showing favoritism to family. So Emily had to start as a cleaner, observing the company's inner workings. This fact was known to only a few executives, and her identity as the president's daughter was kept under wraps. Emily, having witnessed the animosity between me and Derek, began to recount everything in detail. It's not fair. That's just sneaky. Unfair. If you had behaved properly, there would have been no problem, and you even crushed my cookies. Derek, who had demeaned Emily as just a lowly cleaner, turned deathly pale. I was almost impressed at how ashen a human face could turn. John, despite facing tough challenges, never attempted to leak confidential information of the company. He's a trustworthy person, someone said. You don't seem to have the right mindset for someone in a leadership position. You're relieved of your duties as a department head, declared President Thompson. No one dared to counter such a decisive statement from President Thompson. Derek himself collapsed to his knees, utterly dejected. A week later, I was appointed as the head of the sales department, responsible for negotiations with foreign companies. My former colleagues, once oppressed by Derek, were now working more energetically. Although Derek wasn't fired, he ended up working under me. His arrogance was gone, but his dissatisfaction was palpable. He mumbled complaints under his breath and lagged behind in his work. What are you doing, Derek? Nothing. If you have time to surf the web, you should be working on improving your German proficiency, I suggested. I had introduced a German learning program and business communication skills training in the company. Realizing the lack of practical German skills in our headquarters, I saw this as necessary. Indeed, I started attending negotiations with overseas companies, but whenever we dealt with savvy foreign businessmen, we tended to be underestimated. Perhaps this was partly because Americans tend to be less assertive. I shared negotiation tips with my team, and their skills improved rapidly, leading to successful contracts. My manual, once discarded by Derek, was now being used by new employees. After Emily's recommendation, President Thompson had read and approved it. Our business performance improved, especially with the overseas branches. The foreign company that had almost caused a crisis for us was now isolated, having been exposed by our proactive information sharing with other businesses. They were reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy. I found great satisfaction in this job where hard work was properly recognized. However, Derek alone refused to study and remained sullen. No matter what I advised, he wouldn't listen. Why do I have to be told such things? He kept exuding a negative aura, incessantly voicing his dissatisfaction. This attitude made it impossible to entrust him with any significant tasks. Assigning menial tasks to Derek out of spite was not mature, yet there was no element in him to uplift either. Such days eventually came to an end. He disliked taking orders from me. Employees who used to work under him were rapidly climbing the career ladder. It seemed that witnessing this reality was too much for his pride to endure. I quit. I won't stay in a company where a high school dropout is celebrated, he shouted, slamming his resignation letter in front of me. I didn't try to stop him. Instead, I accepted his resignation. Later, I heard that Derek tried to join our rival companies but was unsuccessful. His high educational qualifications weren't enough to compensate for his lack of German skills and arrogant attitude during interviews. The industry buzzed with rumors about him, reflecting his notoriety. Had he been humble and eager to learn, his high education would have been a great asset. However, his re-employment prospects seemed bleak. Meanwhile, Emily and I were dating, with President Thompson's approval. She officially joined a company and was doing well in the accounting department. Despite being the president's daughter, she worked diligently without any arrogance. "You supported me, and that's why I could work hard. Thank you," I said to her. "No, you were just being honest and sincere. It's your abilities that got you recognized," she replied. What started as a dinner to thank her for her support gradually grew into a relationship. We confessed our feelings to each other, and now we're discussing when to talk to President Thompson about marriage. Both of us enjoy household chores, so living together will likely go smoothly. After my mother's passing, I had some lonely days. Now, I am hopeful about starting a new family with Emily.